The story. A resident from Crosby near Mayfair in Johannesburg has been hospitalized after a mini substation blew up in his face after he illegally opened the substation and tried to operate it to restore the electricity. It's understood that he was warned by the councillor and other residents not to tamper with City Power's network, but he went ahead anyway, possibly a sign of the frustration that a number of residents in the city are experiencing, because we know that power outages have been worsened by the on-again, off-again nature of load shedding. Well, I'm joined now by City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena. Isaac, this is quite a shocking case, actually. This is not someone who was trying to destroy equipment or who was trying to steal equipment. Am I correct? This is an ordinary citizen who probably thought he knew enough to try and sort out the electricity outage. Tell us more about this.
Good evening, Sally, and good evening to the listeners. Look, we have those kind of people across the city of Johannesburg. And that's the problem that we're having as City Power, whereby we've got people who actually think that they actually know how to operate the electricity, whether they are illegal electricians, or even those people who actually think we can just flip the switch and then the lights will go on. And this is the situation that happened in Crosby, where people basically decided to operate on our network. One thing I can tell you is that the network is not even supposed to be operated by any other person except the person who's authorized to do that. Even myself, as Isaac Mangena, I'm not even allowed to basically flip the switch to restore electricity to the residents of the city of Johannesburg. And the CEO, even the depot manager, they are not even allowed to basically do that. There are people that are legally allowed, like the doctors who operate on people. When there is a problem, they are the ones who are called, even though there are other doctors that are around, to basically deal with that kind of a situation. So in this instance, you had a situation where a person decided that they will basically operate on our network and switch on electricity. Unfortunately, there's a person in hospital as we speak because of the box itself was dangerous, and then it decided to blow up in his face. So unfortunately, these are the situations that we are seeing, people deploying even those unqualified technicians to basically work on our network and ensure that they restore electricity. We see this more often in informal settlements where people actually get people to connect themselves. We've got about 23 incidents of electrocutions across the city of Johannesburg in the past financial year. And most of those are actually the people who actually fiddled or vandalized or tried to steal cables or tried to connect themselves illegally to our network. And the way they got electrocuted. So it's a serious problem that we're facing as City Power.
Yeah, I mean, it's so incredibly dangerous. But I think the important thing is, as well, to acknowledge the frustration of many City Power customers. You've been on our show before explaining how very difficult it has been for City Power with the extreme load shedding, that it's really weakened the system. You were telling me that your call-outs had sort of gone up tenfold. How are things at the moment? How fragile is the system? Because we know there are still outages across the city.
Yes, in fact, Sally, you know, with the situation or the incident that we're talking about, we had our operators basically busy dealing on the medium voltage outage that was happening in the same area. And the people of Crosby logged calls to complain about the outage that was happening. It happened about from in the morning. And we responded to say we have people that are there in the area. They're working on the medium voltage and high voltage outages, which actually cover a lot of suburbs around that area, so that we can zoom in and come to the mini substation that we're talking about. But we even in spite of our communication with the community and the councillor, the residents themselves decided that let's go and vandalize City Power infrastructure. Let's go and basically ensure that we switch ourselves on. This is not the first time this thing is happening, and these are the problems that we are facing within the city of Johannesburg. We're really stretched as an institution, whereby we're not even able to do like your your normal maintenance of the infrastructure. But in Hasteel, we actually ensured that we pumped lots of resources to ensure that we deal with this kind of problems. And they were busy working elsewhere where we had over 24-hour outages, where people have not had electricity for over a lot of time, and that's what we were basically trying to do.
Yeah.
And we did communicate to the residents to say we will be coming around midday to ensure that we fix your problem. In fact, their problem was actually overloading of the infrastructure. You'll remember this is the area where MMC Councillor Michael Son went, I think 2 weeks ago, whereby they had we had a substation, a mini substation that was basically being launched and opened, and people were working around to ensure that we deal with the issue of illegal connections from the Slovo informal settlements. And this is the same mini substation, a 600,000 worth of mini substation that was vandalized by the very same person. And the very same person, obviously, unfortunately, they got electrocuted and they are currently sitting in the hospital. So this is the kind of problem that we're having with this kind of issues.
So, I mean, you're right. You know, this is the thing, is that people are experiencing prolonged outages. It's not just the level 2 load shedding. Can you give me an indication of where you are at the moment? How many areas are you around Johannesburg are still experiencing long outages, are currently sort of out?
From this morning, we were sitting on close to 3,000 logged calls, and most of those calls were really from areas like Randburg. In Randburg, we had a long-standing outage that was happening around Bromhof and Broxgreen area that happened like long time ago. And also in Rudeport, we had similar problems, and these are the issues that we actually resolved this morning into midday. And the people in those areas are currently with electricity. They are okay, and hopefully the numbers will go down. But if there are any individualized outages, people need to log a call so that we can be able to respond to those kind of things. But we're still actually battling with the load shedding that we are having. As I mentioned on your show the last time when I was in studio, to say we still basically having serious backlogs because of the load shedding. We are not doing maintenance of the network. When there is load shedding, we've got a lot of people that we have to actually bring on board to ensure that they deal with the outages that are happening after load shedding. And so that's the problem that we're actually encountering as City Power, and that's what we're basically trying to deal with, even when we are actually downsized to stage 2 load shedding, but we still have those teething problems that we have to deal with, and that's what we were dealing with in Bromhof. In fact, what we did was to basically ensure that we close everything that was reported to us, so that we are dealing with the plant out of service, so that the people of Bromhof can actually be restored, and at least there is stability in terms of restorations. And I'm happy that even now, after with this call that is happening, the people of Bromhof are actually with electricity currently as we speak. But we are having serious problems, so we are not even out of it yet with this load shedding.
Yeah, so definitely not out of the woods. City Power's Isaac Mangena, thank you very much for chatting to us. And it's an important reminder that the city's grid is battling, the infrastructure is ailing, and an appeal for patience. Do not get so frustrated that just because you can fix a plug, you think you can fix your substation at the end of the road. You know, there's one man in hospital this evening because he was so frustrated, he tried to fix it in himself, and it all went horribly wrong.